Hello, Gary.
Hello, Guy.
So, we went out.
We did. We had a night out as the Rockonteurs. Well, actually, as mates, I think, probably.
Yes.
And as musicians who are slightly envious. I always am. I can't watch anybody without wanting to get up on stage and either join in or correct it. In this case,
notes.
It was definitely join in.
It was great, wasn't it? I mean, and it was such a. It was both previous Rockonteurs, whatever, which Gaz Coombs opening up for the wonderful Johnny Marr.
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, I only caught the second half of Gaz's opening show, but he's got the first thing I said to you was, "What a voice he has!" Gaz.
Yeah,
I mean, pitch perfect, and it was a really good warm up for the crowd, and what a crowd! It was sold out down at the Hammersmith. I can still call it the Hammersmith Odeon.
It'll always be the Hammersmith Odeon,
which obviously will be connected with our guest coming up, but we'll get onto that.
Absolutely, but and I agree as well, because I know maybe it warmed the cockles of my heart that Johnny's got there, because he's worked really hard. I went to see him the next night. He was so good. I went to see him in Brighton, and I've got to say, because the Dome is such an amazing venue. It's like a mini Albert Hall. You know, we did it. We're doing it in a couple of months, in fact. Yeah. And the sound is so great there. The sound was really, really good. And what was that? Oh, because when we saw him, very inspired choice of guest, Neil Tennant came up.
Did Rebel.
Did Rebel, yeah. And Getting Away with It. Gaz came up to do There Is a Light That Never Goes Out in Brighton, which was really great.
Yeah, I mean, I think, those Smith songs, and people are there and sing along to those Smith songs. They are... whatever you think of Morrissey, they're great lyrics, aren't they?
Yeah, but the thing I really, really liked, because it's funny you say that, because I find, because seeing Johnny made me think there's an awful lot of parallels with him and David Gilmour, in that he's now got that thing. There's a few of those songs in the set. There's a few of Johnny's songs now which are absolutely stuck in. Everyone's like, oh, great, it's that one, Newtown Velocity and
that's
all that. And that was really nice. But yes, there's always the weight of the Smith stuff behind it. And it's very much like David. David's got those few songs now, plus the incredibly problematic ex-bandmate.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all the same there. I mean, I certainly am anyway. Hopefully I'll be getting out in my own right. I mean, certainly Johnny inspired me. I texted him when I got back and I said, I wanted to go straight home and play my guitar. And that's, I was so inspired. It just made me want to put a little band around myself as well, because this is what we do, isn't it? It's what we do.
Exactly. But I'd also, the parallel with you is like how much stronger Johnny's voice has got of his. He sings great, and the way he sings those Smith songs is great. His are his songs, but he's really, really matured as a singer, which I think is good, which is as you have from being forced to do it.
Yeah. Listen, if you can hear this strange noise that's going on, I am not playing a rain stick. I've actually got rain belting against my window right now.
No. Listeners, he is playing a rain stick. He's actually... He's actually trying to do a Kundalini yoga class as well while we're recording this.
Yeah. No, I've got terrible wind banging against my... Well, I've got terrible wind anyway. Banging against my windows. It's driving me crazy. So, have you met Woody Woodmansey?
No, I've never met him. This is great. This is a big one. Oh, do you know what? There was one final thing I wanted to say, and it was something that our friend Charlotte, who was with us on Friday, said. You were talking about those Smith songs, right? About your trip out, them being, now there's such fantastic land anthems and everything.
Yeah.
And she made a point. Said the funny thing with those Smiths tunes is that the reason they're such huge hits and they resonated with so many people, especially when they're young, was because they so expressed being miserable and being lonely and being sad. So when they become anthems, that in itself is slightly problematic.
Yeah. You know what? This is true with so many artists who... say like a Morrissey, or there are lots of artists like this I can think of who sing about loneliness, who go on stage opening their lonely hearts up, but it's the irony of that when they're in front of thousands
exactly, and ultimately connected. There's thousands of people who are completely connected and as one.
Yeah, and I think what Johnny has, though, he has a way of breaking down some of that, and he feels more like a fan singing those
Yeah,
songs
absolutely,
than
yeah.
Morrissey singing those songs. Anyway,
Anyway.
Woody.
Also, he said such a great thing at the end of the show. Thanks for choosing us. We know there are other 80s indie guitar legends available.
Although I can't think of many.
Absolutely.
So have you met Woody?
Woody Woodmansey? No, I haven't. You obviously have. That's why you asked such a leading question.
Yeah, of course it was. Because then I can tell you about how much he loves me. And no, I haven't seen him for years, but I have. I think I can't remember what order this was in. I got a feeling. Well, I do. I mean, yes, I put a plaque up.
That's right. Which our friend Susie Howard organised.
Yeah, just off of Regent Street, which is where the Bowie photograph front cover
Haddon Street. Yeah,
Haddon Street. I get that mixed up with Haddon Hall. Is that a bit weird? No, because Haddon Hall is where he recorded those albums.
Yeah, you don't get it mixed up with Hadley, though, do you?
And anyway, I put a plaque up there, number 23. It was where the Ziggy Stardust photograph was taken. You know, where he was in the dark alley, and it's now something rather bizarre, like a restaurant or something.
Oh, wasn't it Momo's? It was a very shishi place in the 90s, wasn't it?
It was a Furrier's when Bowie had his picture taken.
Yes.
And then of course upstairs was a photo studio, and that's why they were all doing the photo shoot for Ziggy Stardust, and then Bowie popped out into the street, photographer run out and took that picture. And so there's a plaque there now. And then I met him because I went on stage with Holy Holy, Woody Woodmansey's Holy Holy, who go out with Glenn Gregory and Tony Visconti.
And Steve Norman.
And Steve Norman. And I got up and I did Starman, which was a buzz. Yeah, that's I think that was 10 years ago now.
Did you go and put your arm around Paul Cutterford?
Who's the guitarist in that?
Paul Cutterford.
No, yes, but James Stevenson, is it?
James Stevenson has done it.
Yeah, he was that night, certainly.
And there's been various other people, like Malcolm has been the singer. Yeah, it's a great enterprise, I think.
It is, you know, it keeps the catalogue going. And of course, Woody is the only surviving member of that band, of the Spiders.
And there's actually, and in fact, there is a story to do with that, a very, very powerful Bowie-related thing that we'll have to ask him about.
Right, okay. So any more gigs that's coming up for you?
Me? What, to go and see?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. No, it's been quite giggy lately though, which I like.
Yeah. I really want to. Yeah, I want to go and see someone else. We'll have to keep our eyes open. Anyone got any ideas who's playing? I think that we need to tell us.
Well, because the thing I really like, and I always advise, and I wish more people would do this when they come and see us, is going to see gigs out of London. I prefer it, especially if it's people you know, because they prefer it.
Yeah, but I can't go south of the river, can I? This man comes from Hull, and I've been there, and I enjoyed Hull. Do you know when I went to Hull? I have to. We won't get him on, will we? But when I went to Hull for another reason, which is obviously where Woody and the Spiders come from, and Mick and all that.
Yes, the Spiders from Hull.
I got invited in to Philip Larkin's office. You know Philip Larkin, obviously the great poet. You know Philip Larkin.
Did you actually just say, "Do you know Philip Larkin"?
No, I'm sort of saying that. I'm sort of saying that to our listeners.
I know. To our listeners. Our listeners know Philip Larkin.
Of course they do.
They fuck you up, your mum and dad. Of course they do. Literate bunch.
Exactly. And anyway, he's got a little his office in the old Hull University, and I got taken in there to have a look, and it's exactly as he left it when he died, and it's decorated how he decorated it, that wonderful 50s stripe wallpaper. It's got his glasses on the desk, you know, it's preserved. And there's the little visitors book which they asked me to sign, and the visitors book is quite extraordinary because it's actually, he did all the lines on it. He wrote the little, you know, visitor date, you know, comment at the top. And they asked me to sign it, and I signed it. And then I went back sort of 3 pages in the visitors book, and it was the beginning of the visitors book, and it was the Queen Mother signing it. Not many people had been in there.
Why were you asked to go in there?
Oh, I went up and I was giving a talk to some of the students there about creativity or something, and so I got invited in. Yeah, I think I may have even told this story before, actually, when we had Simon Armitage on. We're boring all the Bowie freaks who have tuned in specially just to hear Woody. So should we get him on?
Welcome to the Rockonteurs.
Okay, guys, I'm ready.
But it's a big tune for sure. I actually wrote that originally for Tina Turner.
Of course, I had gone and found Joni Mitchell down in Florida and brought her back.
I've listened to a few of them and they've been really good, man. I've been sitting in the back of the car coming into London. They're brilliant.
That caused a big problem in the band, actually. I was having too much fun.
Thank you guys for still being around, still making music, still being into it, and doing this podcast. It's fabulous.
Well, I get the feeling that us three should go for a pint. That's what I think.
I'm in a band now. It's called Roxy Music.
You know this thing about the 10,000 hours of experience?
Oh, yeah.
Get good at something. When we recorded Arnold Lane, we'd done about 50 hours.
The Rockonteurs podcast with Gary Kemp and Guy Pratt.
Keep on rocking!
Woody!
Yay!
Yay! Hello,
Modern
mate.
technology, it works.
Amazing. Looking well. Woody, that's about 10 years ago that I got up on stage with Holy Holy, I think. Was it about 2014, I'm reckoning?
Yeah, about that time.
With Steve Norman, did Starman.
Yeah, that was good. It was a good night.
So good, so good. What a band that is as well. Glenn was fantastic doing Bowie's numbers.
Yeah.
So is the band continuing?
No, we had a bit of a hiccup during lockdown, during that whole crisis. So it didn't kind of work out. It was medical differences. We broke up.
That's the new musical differences.
It is, yeah.
Hello, Woody, by the way. Sorry, I got to say I'm Guy.
Hi,
we
Guy.
haven't met.
Hi, Guy.
I
Good to meet you.
Good to meet you. I just want to quickly clear something up, Woody, because when I was looking at my world suddenly doesn't make any sense because
It wasn't me. Go on, sorry, I didn't mean to cut.
I am absolutely convinced. I have a total vivid memory. I have a memory of you performing, of you being introduced, of everything, of Woody Woodmansey's U-Boat being at Reading Festival in 1977.
That is true.
And I just looked up the lineup and you weren't on the post. You weren't on the bill.
Really? Yeah, we were definitely there. I think Golden Earring and Uriah Heep were on that same bill, yeah.
That's right. And the Enid?
Yeah.
I think you came on after the Enid.
Maybe we were top billing and you didn't look that far up.
That's probably. I think it was actually very good. I think it was Aerosmith at the top of the bill.
Yeah, it was.
That day.
It was.
Yeah, who are the Enid?
But you were fantastic.
I forgot about the Enid.
You were fantastic. The Enid, they absolutely. You would love them, Gary. They totally personify sort of whimsical prog. They had sort of a singer who was more of a narrator who played a bit of flute and sort of looked like an Open University lecturer.
Right, fantastic. Who's the singer for U-Boat, Woody?
A guy called Phil Murray from Newcastle that had been recommended by the singer out of Goldie, who was from Newcastle.
You just did the one album, didn't you?
Yeah.
I had the album. I maybe still have the album somewhere. My record collection got split up when my brother and I left home. But that fantastic kind of Marvel cover of you all.
Yeah, the cover actually was the best thing. Got a lot of attention, that cover.
But do you know what I have to say? And I know this for a fact, that when we came up with the name Nick Mason Saucerful of Secrets, because Guy and I both play with it, it was semi-inspired by Woody Woodmansey's U-Boat.
Was it?
The idea
fantastic.
of putting the drummer's name first and also the fact it was Woody Woodmansey's Holy Holy, which was a song, wasn't it? Which was an early Bowie single that wasn't on the album.
No, it was probably the first single I did with him, and then it kind of disappeared, and then I don't think it came on an album or even got released. I'm not sure. It got released, but I don't know how. I don't know in what form.
It was a time of Man Who Sold the World, wasn't it? It was the same period. Well, let's talk about those early days, if you don't mind,
Woody. I don't mind.
Because, I mean, you are the only touchdown that's left.
Yeah.
Between
Unfortunately, yes.
I know. It's been
it's quite bizarre.
Because last time I saw you is when we did the plaque
on Hedden
Street. That was with Trevor as well, wasn't it? Trevor was with us then.
Yeah.
But just what was your first foray into playing drums and how did it all happen for you? we won't go straight to Bowie. Let's stick with Woody for a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Because you were that little bit younger, weren't you? You were those few years younger, which is so important.
4 years younger. That's a lot when you're a teenager.
Oh yeah, there's 2 years between Gary and I, and it's amazing the difference in our musical, sort of education and birth, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We never forget that he's 2 years younger. So I'm sick of hearing it.
Yeah, I mean, I was in my last year at school and doing a list for what am I going to do when I leave school. And the only thing I really liked was art. So I was good at painting, and that one seemed a bit hard to get going. And I had a list like detective, train driver. My mum put bank clerk on there, and then you can go to a bank manager. You know what I mean? And I'd kind of seriously looked at it and crossed everything off. So I had no clue. And I was playing football one day after school with 4 of my schoolmates, and we used to play in this it was an agricultural area where I lived, and this shop or this yard fixed all the local tractors and combine harvesters and that, and we used to get them to park in a way that we could make a football pitch in the middle of it. So we were playing football, and I kicked the football, and it shot over tractors and combine harvesters, and it landed in front of this building that I hadn't really noticed. And there was about 6 feet of nettles for about, I don't know, 20 yards between me and this building. They said, you kicked it, you bleep, fetch it, you know. So I smashed the nettles down. I got there, and the ball had landed in front of this door of this building. And the door was painted silver. It was a wooden door. And in graffiti, I mean, there wasn't graffiti back then, but in graffiti style, it said, "The Cave." And I was like, whoa, what is that? You know, and I shouted, "Frank, what's this building?" And then I heard music coming through, and it was really loud. It was hitting me on the chest. And so I thought, somebody's got one heck of a transistor radio going in there, you know. I said, "What is this place?" And he said, "Oh, my brother's in a rhythm and blues band, and they're practicing in there." And I went, "Can I go in and listen?" And he went, "No, you don't get in there unless you're really pretty and you've got, you know, a dress on, blah, blah, blah." Not quite that, but something like that. Yeah. And, after 2 weeks of pestering this band, they let me in. They said, "You can come in and listen to 2 songs." So I went in, and there was just one red bulb in there, and it was really small. They'd built a stage about a foot high at one end, and there was fishing nets hanging from the ceiling and things dangling off it, and it smelt, and it was like an old air raid shelter from the war. Yeah. And so they said, "All right, we're going to play it," and they played "Off the Hook" by the Stones, and then "Smokestack Lightning" with mouth organ, and it just blew my mind. I'd never seen a live band, and it was just me stood there. And you know, in those days, I was really quite introverted and shy. You know, I was the guy that was at a party. Everybody invited me to their parties, but I sat in the corner, and I'd think all night of a really good line to say. And as I just got the courage to say it, the party would finish. You know, but when I was listening to music, I thought my body was moving like doing a loon dance or something. You know, that's in my head. That's what I was doing. I was probably only just nodding my head and tapping my feet. I was doing it in public, you know. So it had a big effect on me. And I just went, that's what I want to do. I want to be in a band. I've got to be in a band. So I went out, said, "We've got to form a band like your brother," you know. So we got second-hand instruments from the Salvation Army. They were getting new ones, so you can tell how bad they were.
Was it one of their big bass drums?
Just about, yeah. And it was painted bright yellow with normal house paint, this kit, you know. Right. Bent cymbal with rivets in, a snare that just buzzed all the time, you know. And the skins were real skins.
Temperance Hall on the front of the skin.
Yeah, it was real skins. They were sewn up. So the drummer who'd used it had obviously been doing a Keith Moon, and they were ripped and then stitched. So it was like cowhide. So they really were boomy. It was like early John Bonham, you know. And I just sat on this kit on a week. I could only do it on a weekends, and I did it in this little hole. There was a window missing in this part of this building. So I just set my kit up, and my mates, who were not as serious, would throw stones and sticks in as I was playing through the window. So I'd be trying to get a beat, and the stones would be bouncing off cymbals, and And I was like, no, I'm just keeping going, you know.
Wow,
that's properly suffering for your art, isn't it? He was literally stoned, Gary.
I mean, I remember it took me a week, and I still hadn't played a beat.
I have to say that story about kicking the ball by accident to the stinging nettles and then that's so cinematic, Woody. That is easily the best story we've ever had on this show about anyone discovering music.
No, absolutely, and it's better than that, Gary, because he kicks it from a football pitch, which is comprised of combine harvesters and lorries and tractors. I'm frankly seeing a field of transformers.
Yeah.
So you formed a band in the end.
Yeah, we were called the Mutations.
But if you're just sitting in a room with a kit, people throwing stones in, how are you learning? I mean, what are you?
I'd seen the drummer of this guy's band, and I'd watched one bit. He played a beat, and I kind of clocked it, and I went, okay, I kind of know what that's doing. So I'd start on the cymbal with a stick. And then the snare's got to come in somewhere. 1, 2, 2. Okay, in my head I can hear the beat. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, but then every time I hit the snare, the right hand on the cymbal stopped.
Oh, it was like Charlie Watts used to. Charlie Watts plays like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I only saw that about 4 years ago. That's how he played.
Yeah.
I was like, he never learned. He never got through that. Somebody should have thrown stones at him, you know. They did throw stones at him.
Well, they did, yeah.
Yes. So you ended up forming a band in the what do you call them? The
Mutations.
Mutations. But what about meeting? I suppose Mick would have been someone you met early on. Was he Mick Ronson?
No, I mean, we did. I mean, our first gig was the girls' school. There was a girls' school and a boys' school, secondary schools. And no boy had ever been in the girls' school. And the headmistress said to the headmaster, "We hear you've got a pop group. Would they come and play at our Christmas party?" So
you are so built for rock and roll because you've basically got the end result right at the beginning.
Yeah.
You're in a girls' school. Job done.
So that just clinched it. This is definitely my profession. Do you know what I mean? You've got like 1,500 girls just going, woo. I mean, we were terrible. And my kit fell apart. It was so old. It just fell apart during the first song, and I had to stop and pick it and put it back together again.
Oh, no, we stitch it together. Did you? When did you go professional though? What was the beginning of that?
That was what was I? 18, 19, somewhere around there. I mean, Mick was in the Rats, which was a whole band. We were in the country, basically.
So you're outside of Hull?
Yeah, about 30, 35 miles, something like that.
But
it was when open air festivals first started, all nighters, whatever they were, and we were on the same bill as them. I'd seen him play once, and I thought they were amazing. They were kind of the best rock band in the area. It was good stuff, but nobody else was playing that, and they were really good. So we were both on this all nighter. And I found out later he came and watched me and I'd watched him, but we never met. And then I was working in a factory making spectacles and lenses and things like that, which was a good job. And then they just got through security somehow. And I looked up from this lathe that I was working on, and Mick Ronson stood there, the long blonde hair, white shirt, long black coat, very straight, normal trousers and shoes, and the rest of the band behind him. And he went, "Oh, Woody, I'm Mick Ronson." I went, "Yeah, I know." And he went, These are the Rats." I went, "Yeah, I know." He went, "We want you to be our drummer." And I was like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah, no.
I didn't have a gig at that time. And he said, "But the only thing is you have to come and audition." And I was like, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, because we promised another 6 drummers in Hull that they can audition. And then we kind of remembered you, you know. So if you don't mind just auditioning, but you've got the gig." That was on a Friday, and he said, "On the Monday, you've got a gig." I was like, "Oh, cool. Don't have long to learn the set then." He said, "No, we haven't got a rehearsal time booked. So you know all the songs, I think." He said, just wing it, you know.
And how was Mick to listen to at that point? You must have heard him in his pomp, really.
He was, I guess you just had it. You know, I mean, I'd seen lots of local bands, and there was a lot of good guitarists around. But he took it to the nth degree. when he played if he did a Jeff Beck solo, you just thought it was Jeff Beck. Or if it was a Hendrix solo, it was Hendrix. If you closed your eyes, you were playing with Jimi Hendrix. Same with Clapton. He just nailed it, I mean, he meant it. Do you know what I mean? You got that from him. He meant it, and that was his thing,
So what was your connection eventually then with Mick and with the Rats to find?
So I joined the Rats after that audition, and we kind of expanded out further, doing universities up and down the country.
Is Trevor in that? No, it's no.
No, he joined it later on.
That's right, yeah.
So then it was the three of us with another singer. And it was good. We had a good laugh. It was a funny band. I mean, we played seriously. The music had to be good. But we all worked. So they'd say, "Oh, we got a gig Thursday, but Benny's working late, so we're going to be a bit rushed." Okay. So they'd pick me up at Hull Station. We'd drive around, pick everybody else up. And we knew we were late. It would maybe be in Leeds or somewhere like that. And we had this thing that if you were going around a roundabout, it didn't matter what was happening. If somebody said, "Who was that? That was good fun, Daddy. Can we do it again?" If somebody said that, we had to go around the roundabout again. And then if you got right round again to go to Leeds, and if somebody went, "Oh, that was fun, Daddy. Can we do it again?" And then around we'd go. So we'd be like quarter of an hour doing this, just dying and laughing. And it was like, nobody say it. We are 20 minutes late already. And then you'd go, "Okay, that's it. Nobody say it." Right, okay. And you'd get just to the entrance and somebody would go, "That was good fun, Daddy. Can we do it?" I mean, it was like that all the time, just mental.
Where did the break come into Mick becoming the hype and you not? Because you weren't part of that first incarnation, were you? With Bowie's band.
Not the first hype. What happened? Well, he got the drummer that I replaced in the Rats was a guy called Johnny Cambridge, and he was kind of the first one that left Hull. The consideration was you can't really make it if you're in Hull, And I guess we looked at the Beatles moved to London, other bands moved to London.
Shadows, yeah.
So it was like, so he was the first one to go, and he teamed up with a band called Junior's Eyes, which one of the guys wrote "I Am Sailing" for Rod Stewart.
That was one of the Sutherland brothers.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. So Junior's Eyes were doing like demos for David. And that was his kind of first step to trying to do a bit more rock and roll than folky things. I mean, all I'd seen of him was there was a festival up around Scarborough somewhere in Yorkshire, a flyer on the floor. And I picked it up and there was a picture of David with the curly hair. And it said Space Oddity David Bowie playing at this festival. That's all I knew of him. I just thought he was a folky,
Yeah.
And then David didn't like the guitar. It was too country of the quiver thing. So So John had said, "Well, I know this guitarist called Mick Ronson, and he's really good." So David said, "We'll bring him down." And then Mick came down, played with David. David just liked how he played and his whole approach to it, Then they did a few gigs. I think Roundhouse. Maybe
you must have been a bit upset thinking your band had fallen apart.
Yeah, but Mick said to me, "Don't worry, Wood. So I'll see that you're all right." I was like, "Yeah, okay." and then David phoned up and said, "Mick says you're really good and you'd fit in with us. You'd get on with us. We're going to do an album. You don't have to worry about paying rent, because I've got my own place. You don't have to worry about food." Haddon Hall. Don't worry about food. And in my head,
I don't eat.
Yeah, I did have to worry about food. That's another story. But I had to kind of make my mind up. Am I going for this? And the fact he was a folky, because I didn't really listen to any folk music because it didn't have good drums on it, you know. And I thought, that's weird. Mick was one of the heaviest guitarists in the area.
It's all stuff like Letters to Hermione, and it's all very, it's very sort of Donovan almost.
So I wasn't really sure. And Mick said, no, he's good. I was like, yeah, I believe he's good. but it's the style. So I sat all weekend. I didn't go out. I sat in my lounge at home and the TV was on and I was going, yeah, I'll go for it because, and reasons why. Yeah, but no, I don't think that would work. And so I was doing this all weekend, and on the Sunday, for some reason, in my head, I was like 65 years old, believe it or not. And because that same weekend, I'd had a job offered at this factory to be an under foreman. So I was like the second in charge of this factory. And I would be 18, actually. And it meant a new car every year. I didn't drive, but it'd be nice to have a new car. You get, really good pay for holidays, and they would sort out a house for me. So for my parents, it was like, oh, Michael is sorted. Whoa, good, And I was going, okay, I get this and this and this. I don't know what I'm getting there apart from I think I'm getting fed.
Yeah.
So I couldn't make my mind up. And as I was going through it, I was like, all right, I'm 65. The new car's on the driveway. The grandkids are sitting at my feet and we're watching television. And the television was on. And a band came on. That don't know who it was to this day. And I said to one of my grandkids, when I was 18, I could have, and I'm not kidding, everything froze. I was just, oh my God. And I could see my future totally if I stayed there, did this factory. I knew it was predictable. And I went, oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
And the regret as well was there. Yeah. And I went, I can't do that. It's my life. Even if I thought, because I had nobody who wanted me to go professional. My friends didn't, because it meant I would be away from them. My parents didn't, because they didn't like the idea of being a musician anyway. Relatives didn't want me to go. But I went, well, it's my life. And even if and they said, yeah, you don't make it from Driffield. Nobody makes it from Driffield. There's a lot going for me here, And I thought, well, even if I come back in the gutter with all my shirt ripped and I'm battered and bruised and bleeding, and they go, we told you, we told you. And I could just stick a middle finger up and go, yeah, but I tried. At least I tried.
Stinging nettles on your ankles.
Yeah.
But because Woody, that is the most brilliant kind of lateral projection. Amazing. It's incredible. That is your,
creative mind.
Yeah. You should have been a self-help guru, mate.
Yeah, that's it.
Blown away.
I rang him up and he said, oh, well, Mick's coming down on Tuesday, come down with him, And I was a bit nervous, I must admit. I was a bit nervous.
And also, because you're walking into what is absolutely hippie central at Haddon Hall, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, these are people, this is a culture that you've probably never witnessed before. With
totally.
Bowie and Angie and
Donna Gillespie.
That whole vibe.
Yeah.
So,
I was in like a granddad tie-dye T-shirt, jeans with patches, tartan patches, red patches all up and down, moccasins and hair, down to my chest.
Yeah.
And then Mick said, oh, I've got a meeting with somebody in London. You'll have to go to Haddon Hall on your own, So I was like, oh, that's even worse. All I had was this curly-haired guy called David Bowie in my head. And I knocked on the door and he answered the door, and he had long hair. He didn't have curly hair, and he had a rainbow T-shirt on, a silver buckled belt, bangles on, red corduroy trousers, and red slip-on shoes that were normal Clark's shoes, but he'd obviously, because I'd done it myself, he'd obviously painted them red, and there was 2 blue stars stenciled on the top of them. Brilliant. And it was a bit of a culture shock, I must admit.
Brilliant.
Because I was totally hippie,
It could have been a dress, so you're kind of,
Yeah,
that
was in my bag.
Yeah, because he's come out of mod and he's got this peacock kind of thing that he's following now. It's a very different vibe, isn't it? Because he's obviously very London boy.
Yeah.
And what was the first music that you heard then from this album that proved to you that this was more rock?
Well, no, he played me some of his past tracks and his past album that he'd done, and it was still, and I'm sitting there thinking, this is too light for me. I can't play that light, or I don't want to play that light. I can't find anything to like about it. And I kind of had this list in my head. Is he intelligent? You know, can you communicate with him? Can he write? Can he sing? Or is he shy? Or is he sings out of tune, whatever? Does he have ideas? You know, because as the Rats, we'd come to a point where we knew you needed good songs to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And you needed a good singer, because that was the front man for the whole thing. So I had this list. And then I was kind of feeling quite negative on being there. And he just picked up his 12-string and he played Wild Eyed Boy from Free Cloud to me, just like 5 feet away from me. And I just went, whoa, he can write, he can sing, he's got the front to actually do it to me. He's intelligent and he's got ideas. And that was it. I went, wow, he's got something. And it was not a vocal that I'd heard, not a voice that I'd kind of heard before. Because, I was used to Paul Rodgers, Robert Plant, Daltrey, all the classic rock.
But his influences were different. Obviously, he'd been Mime School, Lindsay Kemp, Anthony Newley. It was much more theatrical, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, he played me a a film of him doing Mime with Lindsay. And I was sitting there thinking, what the, you know?
Yeah.
What am I into here? What is this?
What if I'd seen that? What if that film came on the television when I was watching it when I'm 65 with my grandkids?
Yeah. You know, I could have, no, I couldn't.
But you knew you had what was, you know, I mean, listen, you fell into the right place, that's for sure, Woody, but it was definitely your checklist was perfectly right. It was going to get all ticked by this
totally
guy.
Did.
And
I mean, I'd thought to myself, and it was only a very light thought. I thought, what do I actually want to do with music? What is it? And the only thing I remember thinking about was, I thought, I want to be in the next big thing that comes out of the UK in rock. I want to be the drummer in that. And then I forgot about it. And it was, I think, during maybe Aladdin Sane, it dawned on me that exactly what I thought about and wished for, if you like, is exactly what I got.
But also the other guy who was there was Tony Visconti, that you must have met for the first time as well, because he was the bass player.
He was there as producer, though, wasn't he?
But he played bass.
Was he? No, he did. No, I know he played bass, and really well. He's a really pretty handy bass player. But I'm just wondering how much of a bass player hat he had on.
I think Mick took him to one side and he said, I don't know really how to play this kind of stuff. And Mick said, here, and he gave him Jack Bruce and Cream albums, and he said, just learn how to play those and you'll be all right. So he did. Yeah.
You knew it was something different though, because they'd already done that gig at the Roundhouse, hadn't they? Just a few months before you joined the band. They did that with Cambridge on drums, which is the famous one. I think I forget who they Noel Redding's mattress, or
Fat
something.
Mattress, Fat
Mattress. They were supporting and dressed up in all these different characters. It was Bowie's first sort of attempt at doing something more theatrical. So you were. Did David say you've got to wear this or you've got to wear that?
Not early on. No, you know, we kind of got into concentrated on the music and playing together. I mean, because Trevor and Mick and myself had played all that time and so many gigs, we kind of knew each other's playing and what worked, what didn't when we played together. So we kind of had that experience. That was kind of our apprenticeship, really. We didn't have the experience of taking a new song that somebody's just written and then what do you do with it? Do you know what I mean? And he said he wanted rock. So The Man Who Sold the World was the first thing. So we were still in the Rats mode, really. We were still playing like we played in the Rats, and it was a different kind of singer and it was a different kind of song. I mean, he would come and he'd say, okay, here's a track, and he would play 8 bars of chords and then stop and go, and there's this bit. And then it was something else, different chords, and then this bit, and this bit. So that's called, what was it called? What's the one-eyed monster in Myths and Legends?
Cyclops.
Oh, Cyclops.
Yeah, this is called the Cyclops. And we were like, ooh, cool. It's got to be heavy then, hasn't it? But it wasn't a song. And then we set up in Advision Studios in London, like a band. We just set up like a live gig. and Mick started playing the chords, and we started to just play around, find a groove. And then Tony was pretty good at going, whoa, that bit really worked when it goes to that and that happens. Let's repeat that. So we'd go, oh yeah, that's good. So we then were piecing this track together. And meanwhile, I think David had just been married, really. He hadn't been married long.
To Angie?
And he spent a lot of time in the studio foyer with Angie. And then Tony would go, we're ready for lyrics. And he haven't got any lyrics. And he went, but we need them now. And he'd say, give me 20 minutes. And then he'd just sit with a notebook, write them
So what
out.
did the Cyclops become?
So the notebook, write them out, cut them up.
The Cyclops disappeared, and that became
Superman, yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of went like that. And then it evolved into like, this is kind of our progressive Sgt. Pepper album.
Right.
But what I would say, Woody, is because I'm wondering where your style actually came from. Because it's interesting, especially with that Man Who Sold the World album, how it's they're clearly it's that whole Beck group, that rock thing that's really, a lot of that heavy riffing stuff. But you're not a bonzo at all. You have that lovely. You've always had. I mean, I can. You've got that beautiful distinctive thing. Can spot you miles away with that lovely, really tight, crisp snare and those really tidy, crisp snare fills. I'm just wondering if that's something that you were doing deliberately, because it's not you're not laying down heavy rock, I would say. It's better than
I can though. I mean that was my apprenticeship, playing that stuff, playing heavy. It was a mix really of, I like Mitch Mitchell, but again the Bowie stuff didn't allow you to do much. So I mean, take a track like Star on Ziggy. It was like ding 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 ding. It was like, oh, can't just play a straightforward thing. And I remembered a Mitch Mitchell beat, down 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 down, boom boom da da, boom boom da 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 da, boom boom da da, boom boom, which is really cool to play. And I thought, I can fit that. It's a lot faster, but I can fit that to this track, and it should work.
Yeah, so it sounds like nothing you've ever heard, frankly.
Yeah. But it was all like taking bits that I liked, that I'd learned, that were in. I mean, I always had like a drum library in my head of things that, whether it's Simon Kirke, Charlie Watts, Bonham, Mitch Mitchell, I like Mike Giles from King Crimson. There was a lot of drummers, Bobby Elliott from the Hollies. Just little tasty bits they did here and there, and they would go in my little library. So when a new song was given to me, I'd just walk around the library.
I mean, that's the benefit of coming out of a covers band, of playing contemporary songs, for so many hours. You got the chance to try all that stuff out.
Yeah, and you also know what a good song should feel like and should sound like, and dynamics wise, and you got a feel for like, that arrangement is good, that is right. So when you were playing Bowie stuff, you kind of knew if it wasn't quite right. You could feel it, Yeah.
The album didn't do that well, did it, really?
No.
Even though, David went to New York and he met all the people from the Factory and Andy Warhol and Iggy. I mean, actually, when you think about it, this is the beginning of where punk started, because it was going to be David who was going to introduce us all to Iggy and Lou Reed and all those, and New York Dolls eventually and people like that. But it didn't do that well. You went on tour with it, and you split the band.
We didn't go on tour. No, so, we never did those tracks with David. There was a few during the Ziggy period where we did like Superman and Width of a Circle. That was about it, I think.
So when was the moment, though, Woody, when you there was a bit, isn't there? There's a story when you decide not to go to the gig. What show is that on?
That's because Mick and I had come up playing live. That was our lifeline. We loved touring, and not touring, even just doing gigs. And there was no money really to be able to tour, to get equipment, to set anything up. And I'm not sure if David was really looking at touring anyway. He hadn't really found his feet completely. So we were getting frustrated doing nothing. the wine cellar we'd converted and soundproofed into a studio. So Mick and I would be down there jamming away, playing away. Then he got a gig in Leeds. It was one gig. I think it was Leeds University. And he went up in his Rupert the Riley, his car, with his equipment in the back. And we went in a taxi, actually. And I had my drums, and Mick had his amp and guitar and all that. And we were just chatting about, we're not really doing a lot, are we? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to be really honest here. We were doing black country rock, and it sounded great. And then at the end, he started doing a Mark Bolan, and we were not really fans of Mark Bolan. I mean, he was successful. He wrote good tunes, but the whole was just anti. I think we were still in the progressive. Half of us were still progressive rock musicians. And so when he started doing that, we just went, I cannot go out. We both said it. I can't do that. And I went, neither can I. I said, what?
So how tribal you
go out
were,
live
then.
behind him. If he's going to sing like that, I can't do it. I went, no, I can't. I'd just walk off. So so we were talking about this on the way to Leeds. And he went, I miss playing. And then the driver said, so you're going to Leeds or something? And then there was a signpost, and it said, Hull that way, Leeds that way. And Mick said, do you want to go home? I went, yeah, let's put a band together, So we went, and he did the gig on his own.
Oh my God, I'm surprised he ever spoke to you guys again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was never mentioned for probably until the last tour. I think Angie said, oh, I remember when you guys left David on his own. And we went, oh, I thought you'd forgotten about that.
So what happened? So he had to do it. So you had a gig that was set up for a band, and he just went and did it on his own.
Yeah.
Wow. Because once he's come back from America with Velvet Underground and everything like that, but you liked the vibe of the Velvet Underground, but you didn't actually like what they did or how they played.
We kind of liked the decadence, the edginess of it, and the fact that he sang about whatever he wanted to sing about. There was it was coming from him. We saw him as like a New York poet, plays music, only just plays music though, But he had that charisma about him. He had that ability to communicate. And Iggy was the same. It wasn't your Roger Daltrey in-tune thing or Robert Plant high notes, and then it was something different. We saw he brought a video of Iggy. It must have been playing Detroit, and he was ripping his chest with a mic stand, and he had a massive tub of peanut butter, and he was just smearing it over the audience, walking through the audience.
And that's why when he walks across the audience. Yeah, that
and
famous
he's just
clip's amazing.
lobbing big chunks of peanut butter down girls' fronts and rubbing it in their hair, and we were like, oh my God, this is outrageous. And we kind of saw him as the new Jagger. That's what it looked like in those days. This guy's the new Jagger,
But David learned a lot from that, didn't he? A performance art, as it were.
Yeah.
So how did you get back to Haddon Hall? You must, for the invite to do Hunky Dory.
Yeah, he called Mick up and said, would you come back? You're the only guys that I've been able to work with and do anything decent. And we get on. So, and I think we were struggling a little bit. I can't remember how it was, but it wasn't.
How long's it been? Sorry, so you've taken that fork and you've just stayed in Hull?
Probably only 6 to 9 months, 6 months, 9 months, something like that.
That's a long time when you're young.
Yeah.
That's a very long
But in the meantime, I guess he's writing Hunky Dory,
Yeah,
isn't he?
that's
Has he got songs to show you when you arrive back at Haddon Hall?
Yeah, he had some, not a lot, but he called me up and said, "Will you bring a bass player with you that you like?" Because Tony's gone off to produce. When we got back, he was writing all the time. He had a keyboard set up in their bedroom, and his 12-string was in the lounge, and he was either in one or the other. And he'd just through the serving hatch from the kitchen, which was in the middle of those two rooms, Mickey Mouse had grown up a cow, and he'd be buttering toast going, "That's a bit weird." What did he just say? Mickey Mouse grown up a cow. Oh, interesting, And he's plonking away on piano. He's not doing a Rick Wakeman, obviously. He's not that skilled. But you can hear the chords. And then he'd say, "Oh, Woody, I've just finished one. Come in." You go in and he'd play a track and go, "Oh, I like that. That's good." And it had more of a rock thing about it to start with. We didn't have to think of, what to do. It was kind of up our street.
Because apart from Queen Bitch, that album has a less rock feel than the previous one. Yeah.
I mean,
but
we
better
gone
songs.
through. We were listening to Velvet Underground was very simple playing, and had a good vibe about it when they were all playing the same song in time. But we couldn't play that bad. Do you know what I mean? We couldn't. We tried. We did try, and it sounded terrible. Because
they were the very first indie band, really, weren't they? Velvets.
Yeah. But the atmosphere that they like waiting for the man and all that. Just it was like edgy.
Because you ended up doing White Light, White Heat.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, White Light, White Heat.
Yeah.
So we were listening to Lennon solo albums and Stephen Stills.
But I think there was a whole thing, wasn't there? There was a sort of reaction to that whole everyone had gone rock, and then I think the band had quite a lot to do with it as well, didn't they?
And I remember listening to a track on After the Gold Rush, I think it was on. I'm listening to the drummer, it was so simple but so tight. And then right near the end, he hits the cymbal on this accent, and it just blew me away. I was just like, oh, that was just a perfect cymbal crash. And then I realized he hadn't hit the cymbals until that point in the song. And it I don't know, it got me thinking less is more, which was a phrase that was around, but people said they did that, but they didn't really. They just said it. They gave it lip service. You know
I couldn't agree more. My whole life has been people going, "Oh yeah, no, less is more," but they don't. You're so right.
But actually, just to point out,
me included.
But just to jump ahead in the story a little bit, Woody, I mean, the perfect example of less is more is your drum opening on 5 Years and on the Ziggy album, and Rock and Roll Suicide. Just almost like a drum machine, but so pure and almost heartbreaking in its naivety, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, David just said. I think we were set up. We got the sounds in Trident in the studio, and I think it's one of the times I said, "Are we doing the one you played me on Friday?" And he went, "No." This was Monday. I went, "Oh, so what are we doing then?" He went, "This," and he played 5 Years. Like maybe he might have played it twice. I'm sure he only played it once. And then he went, "Ken," and then he went, "Oh, Woody, you start this one." I was like, "Oh, thanks a lot."
Because it's an old time signature, isn't it? 6/4.
Yeah. And in my head, I'm thinking, fantastic. I've got an opportunity to put all my attempted Buddy Rich bits and a bit of this and a bit of Flash and Bonham bits, and that'll be good. And then I went, hang on, the song's about the end of the world. I'm not going to feel like playing like that. So I just got into the mode of it's the end of the world, really. And I was thinking about New York and Japan and London and, okay, I'm communicating to them and it's the end of the world. And I just went, boom, boom. And it just came out. And he just went, that's it. Do that. That's exactly it. And then I was thinking, I'm going to hit a cymbal. I went, I can't be bothered.
Because it's the end of the world.
That apathetic. You know what I mean?
There'll be no one here to hear it.
Oh my God.
Man, the way your mind works, Woody, is fantastic.
It is wonderful.
It really is. I want a book of your wisdom.
Yeah, the Tower of Woody Woodmansey. But just going back to Hunky Dory, let's mention Life on Mars. I mean, what a song to play on.
Oh, amazing.
It sounds so arranged.
Mick hadn't done that many arrangements. I think he'd maybe done one for Dana Gillespie on her album, on the demos that Tony DeFries, the manager, was taking around. They were taking an acetate of Bowie stuff and Dana stuff because he didn't know who was the best. He didn't know which the record companies would want. That's how much he knew, And if there was anything where Mick was doing strings on, I think we had our own flat by that time. And he would say, oh, there's this section that these strings are going to be doing that. And he'd be in the toilet writing it. writing the notes out. You might go, Mick, I need the low. And he goes, yeah, no, just let me finish this line. Like, no, I'm bursting, Mick, And he was like, yeah, I'm nearly there. And he had his guitar in there, working the notes out. And then he'd go out, he'd say, okay, I'll show you this. This is what he does, like, or whatever. So your beat can't clash with that, So it was good. You knew what the strings were going to be doing. And then
did you play live with the strings on that track?
No,
I wouldn't have. But it's because it is one of the most complicated songs ever written. My son actually did it when he did grade 6 piano. That was his piece.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it's complicated enough. For that.
It is.
I mean, to the fact that it's still got it's got a key change in like the last bar or the last bar but one.
Yeah.
And again, you think, why? It's the end. It's the end of the world.
I want to know who was on the phone when the phone rings at the end of Life on Mars.
Yeah, don't know. It was in the toilet, actually. There was a toilet on the studio floor, and I guess so you didn't have to go right up the stairs to find the loo if you were going to do a take or something. And it was also for session musicians. Their agents would ring in on that in between takes and whatever. So, you got another gig tomorrow, or you've got a session with blah, and that's what it was used for. And I'd never had it ring until Life on Mars. And then
my agent called me here.
We'd done 2 takes. We did 1 take, and it was good. It sounded really good. And I think Mick said, "Oh, let's do another one." That sounded really good.
So you got just get a picture of this. You got Rick Wakeman, you, Trevor, and Mick all in the room doing the backing track. Is that
And Bowie singing, and then we did the next one, and it was like, whoa, that definitely was it. You could feel it, I mean, my approach was like Bonham does classical. That was my reaction to the song, because I knew it was going to be a classical kind of mix, And when Ken said, "Oh, come up," we were in Beckenham, and Ken said, "I've just finished Life on Mars, mixing it. Do you want to come up and listen?" So all 4 of us jumped in car, came up to London, and he said, "Pin your ears back." So we were all sitting in a line, and he plays it, and you know what it's like in a really good studio. Mm-hmm. You're hearing it. When we last heard it, everything was raw. It was just raw, and it doesn't quite integrate. You can hear the separate bits, maybe makes it sound slightly out here and there, and it was raw sounds. So he started playing it, and I looked along the 3 of them, and their mouths were getting bigger and bigger. Just the jaws were dropping, And it was like, wow, Ken, that is amazing. Is that? And I remember saying, "Is that us?" It is so amazing.
It really is. But surprisingly, it has to be said, at that point, this album doesn't become a hit. No. David becomes probably more successful through Peter Noon from one of those tracks, doesn't he? With Oh You Pretty Things.
Yeah.
But it's got to be one of the most reappraised albums of all time, isn't it? Yeah. Because there's vastness now in the cultural canon.
But why wasn't it a hit? What was going wrong for David at that point?
I mean, I don't know. I think sometimes in life, your decisions and your attitude to what you're doing and what you want to achieve and how you want to do it, if you've got that really in, then you're kind of zeroed in on it. You're thinking like that. You're kind of creating from that viewpoint. And I think he'd only, for me, Hunky Dory was a songwriter album. It was him saying, "Give me a xylophone, give me a rubber band, I'll hold it between my teeth and I'll play you a hit. I'll write you a hit." It was like, I'm going to prove to you that I can write. And that everything that he came out of the bedroom or the lounge was like, hell, that's a great song. It wasn't the same. It wasn't like listening to Black Sabbath or somebody else.
I mean, Bewley Brothers is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't even there when he did that. We all went for a Chinese. He said, "Oh, I'm going to just mess about with something, And we came back and he said, "What do you think to this?" And I was like, oh my God. He said, "You wait, when the Americans say this, they'll say I'm a prophet or this or that, or I'm a poet, I am a Superman." I was like, yeah, they probably will.
But you were already doing a bit of Ziggy, weren't you? Because he had this side band called Arnold Corns, didn't he? Which is Freddie Barretti, his stylist.
Yeah, that was before he really had the. Before he'd really made this decision to be a rock and roll singer and star and have a band and go for it, he was like, that was his substitute. Maybe I don't have to do that. Because he was still thinking a little bit in, should I be just a songwriter? Like he'd done the thing, giving Peter Noon it, which I thought was weird. Or do I do it? And I don't think he quite had it. So he picked Freddie, who was a tailor, an amazing tailor, could make clothes and suits and anything. And it just fitted you like, wow, that's amazing. And he was like a Greek god. He looked like a Greek god, So it was like the perfect frontman. If he could have sang, he couldn't sing.
He did Moon Age Daydream, didn't he? That's what he wrote.
But it's really, I think it's David's voice, really.
Yeah, it was.
So that didn't really work out. And we did the backing tracks to it,
Because Ziggy felt like it came along pretty quickly on the heels of Hunky Dory, didn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's a couple of weeks. He was writing. You couldn't tell what tracks were going to go on what album. I mean, for me, because of the concepts of Ziggy, Life on Mars should have been on there.
Right.
You know what I mean? The Spiders from Mars with a track called Life on Mars, not Hunky Dory. It was more, that's just how it happened,
There's a little story that Pete Townsend put in his autobiography, which is that when The Who did Tommy at the Royal Albert Hall, because Bowie was a mate of Pete's, Pete asked David to look after his little brother, Simon, for the gig, to babysit, because he was a kid. And at the end of the show, David brought him back, and he said, and they both said to me, that's what I want to do. Simon meant, I want to play rock and roll. And David thought, character-based concept rock and roll.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So when did you become a Spider? Because that must have been just at that time, wasn't it? Had he written Ziggy
yeah,
Stardust?
I mean, Ziggy was like David Bowie, and we got, acknowledged on the back for what we did on the album, but more as like backing or session musicians type thing. We'd kind of got more into the Ziggy style from looking at touring Hunky Dory, because we hadn't toured The Man Who Sold the World for various reasons. Hunky Dory didn't feel like an album you could go out and do concerts with. It didn't rock. It didn't really get great songs, great to play, but it was, it didn't feel right. No. So we were always saying, we need to rock it up. It needs to be rockier. It needs to be heavier. It needs to be faster. To David. And then he would, a couple of days later, come with like Suffragette City. Is this fast enough type thing, Down, 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 down. Yeah, that's good. We'll do that one.
But was the whole Ziggy thing talked about? Ziggy and the sort of conceptually, whatever.
No, we were in rehearsals for the first Ziggy tour, and it had always been my job as the drummer in the band to do the front drum skin, and I wanted to do it, and I just thought, what am I going to put on it? And I just write the Spiders. So he didn't know, and Mick said, you might not like it, I went, yeah, I know, but it's done now. It's on the drum, And so he came into rehearsals and just looked at it and went, and looked straight at me and didn't say anything. So it passed the test.
Do you know what I'm thinking now is that maybe because of that, you made him Ziggy Stardust, because maybe Ziggy Stardust because Ziggy Stardust isn't sung in the first person singular. It's about another bloke. And maybe it was a song about this, where Bowie's telling a song about this band from, guy from space. But you saying, but we're the Spiders, that made David Ziggy, didn't it?
Yeah.
So it could have been you.
Yeah, I definitely wanted us to have an identity, rather than just playing along with him.
And you're in Trident making that record, and it must have felt like this is the one we've got. Were you touring Ziggy before you were recording it?
We're just doing it was still writing tracks. As I said, it could be, I've just finished one, Woody. You go in and listen and go, oh, that's great. I love that one. And then I'd get in the studio with him, and then I say, is that the one we're doing? No, it's this one. I just finished this one this morning. It's like, and then you never got more than 3 takes at the song. Even when we were doing demos in Hull, you might do 5 or 6. to get one that feels right, that's good.
So something like Lady Stardust, you just hear it that minute and you'd be playing it, recording it.
That would be like first or second take. Starman was first take.
Wow.
You've never played it before, you know. And it was edgy, so you were kind of on a knife edge all the time. And it made you go, I could only actually play what I am 100% certain works that I can do without messing up and will fit, and that I won't be embarrassed about in 20 years' time. You know.
You're back in front of the telly again, aren't you?
Yeah. I must think a lot about the future. I don't know why.
Yeah. And so, but when you start taking that album out, well, let's go back on the album.
We did pubs.
Yeah, but let's just go back on the album.
Was the first gig, wasn't it?
I just want to mention one thing, because initially they finished Ziggy Stardust album, and I'm wondering if this is true, this story, and that David was told maybe by the record company there isn't a single on it, and
that's true.
And so Starman he wrote as a single, you know.
Yeah, he wrote it that weekend.
Did that feel too poppy for you, even?
Yeah, it was. It's a fine line, isn't it? You know, I mean, some tracks can hit you as a bit cheesy, and then like 3 months later you hear it again and you go, actually I like it. It's not cheesy, you know what I mean? And Starman was like that for me and Mick. He played as it, and we left the house going somewhere. We're going, that's a bit gimmicky, isn't it?
But it's somewhere over the rainbow, isn't it?
Yeah.
But so you know, he knew what he was buying. He knew what he was writing. He was writing a massive hook that everyone felt familiar with. And that song changed my life, as long as as well with loads and thousands of other kids who saw that performance on Top of the Pops. It is, to this day, that was the moment that, you know, I went, that's for me, you know, and I want to be like that.
Yeah.
You know that, don't you, Woody? You know how important that performance on Top of the Pops was.
Yeah, I do.
For everybody.
I mean, it was for us, because Top of the Pops back then was a milestone you were heading for. That and Old Grey Whistle Test. So to get asked to do it was like, oh, wow, you know, especially after Changes had come out. I think Life on Mars was released as well. And we thought they were fantastic tracks.
Right, but let's talk about
sold, you know.
Let's talk about the stuff you had to wear, though, because you had to wear, you know, I think David, wasn't there a trip to Liberties at one point?
Yeah, we somehow, Mick and I, Angie and David, we went on a shopping trip to London, and we're in Liberty's material department, and David's passing down big rolls of material. Woody, grab this, you know, and I'm honestly thinking, this is not made up. Fantastic, we're finally going to have curtains at Arden Hall. And then Mick and I are kind of doing a Spinal Tap thing, like, you know, as he's passing Mick a roll of material, we're going, rock and roll. We left Hull for this, rock and roll, you know. And then we took all this material home, and then Freddie came in, and they were talking. We were sat in the lounge, and they was going, well, it doesn't want to be too bright. I'm thinking pastels, and I'm thinking, what the hell, you know. And then that Angie, I think, said, this is for your outfits, boys, you know. It's like, really? And there was a gold silk suit going to be made, a blue suit, and pink, kind of same material, but blue. And Angie said, well, Mick's got blonde hair and he looks really good in gold, you know, that he could really pull that off. And I was like, yeah, totally. Yeah, and Trevor's got dark hair, so blue with dark, and I'm thinking as a painter, definitely those two go together. That, you know what I mean? And then I looked down and there's just pink left, and I just went swear word pink, and he said, yeah, but it takes a real man to pull off pink, and I fell for it. I was like, really? Well, okay then.
Because there's that lovely famous clip of David on Parkinson, isn't there, talking about you lot, about when you were first confronted with all the makeup, and then suddenly realised actually girls love it, and everyone was all over you.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that was Mick. It was Mick who didn't want to wear the gear. We didn't object that much. We were more fascinated by what it was going to turn out like, and what we'd look like, you know. But Mick, I think Angie came in and said, "You got a problem, boys." And Bowie said, "What?" He said, "Mick's packed his suitcase and he'll be on Beckenham station now. He's going back to Hull." He said, "You're not getting me in those clown outfits. I've got friends." So Bowie just said, "You got to go get him back, Woody. You got whatever you have to do. You have to go and get him back." So I just went down to the station, and he was sat there with his suitcase waiting for a train. And I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm not wearing that, Woods. I can't wear that. I have to face people. I'm a guitarist. I play rock, all that kind of thing." I went, "Mick, before I joined the Rats, I saw some promo shots of you in a girl's blouse." And he went, "You did not." I did. I said, "I did. It was definitely a girl's blouse because they didn't make men's shirts back then that looked like that." And he went, "Yeah, but it was just for a promo shot." I said, "Well, that's what this is. It's promo. You know what I mean? Gets a bit of attention, blah, blah." And somehow managed to talk him into it. I said, "It would look, if we wore what we wore in the Rats, I kept the same T-shirt on for 5 days. I played in it and did everything in it. And you did the same, that really won't go down well playing Life on Mars or something,
Those gigs, Guy mentioned Friars when you were playing those early shows.
Yeah.
Roger Taylor from Queen tells us, how, he went with Freddie Mercury to those gigs, and that made Queen happen. This was an incredibly influential band you were in. But did you feel it growing and growing?
Yeah. Yeah, you could feel that. I mean, the early we did early pub gigs, and we'd rehearsed in, I think it was Stratford-on-Avon, where all the actors and do all the acting.
Shakespeare.
Yeah, because they had a good light show there. We could use the lights, work lights out. Because David had said, "Look, I got to get you all on the same page as me, so we know what we're talking about when we're putting a show together." So he said, he would say like, "Oh, we're going to see a play tonight in London. We've been rehearsing or whatever." And I go, "Oh, what's it called?" He went, "I don't know what it's called." And I said, "What do you mean we're going to see a play and you don't know what it's called? That sounds a bit stupid." And he went, "No, I don't care about the play, but the lighting director is the best one in London at the moment." So he said, "Don't bother with the play, just watch the lights and see what effect it has on the people and the audience and as it changes. And because I'm going to say to you, what colours do you think we should use for this song when we put a show together?" Wow. He took us to a ballet. We thought it was a RCA night out. We didn't know what it was. And it was a ballet. So the spiders are all loaded up with popcorn and Coke and crisps and all that. And we walk into a ballet and it's like crackle, crackle, and people going, "Shh, shh, 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 sorry."
But he was trying to immerse you in culture, wasn't he?
Yeah, he totally did that.
And you watched Clockwork Orange and as well. Yeah. That was an important part, wasn't it? Because you ended
2001 Space Odyssey. Right. Just that whole thing. So we knew where he was thinking. And because when you went to him with an idea, you had to be pretty sure it was a good idea and that it was on his, what can you say, wavelength, that he would go for it, Otherwise, you kept your gob shut.
That tour went over to America, and obviously David's getting more and more theatrical. You go to Japan with it, don't you?
Yeah.
And this is where Mike Garson gets picked up on that tour, doesn't he?
On the, Yeah, in New York.
Yeah.
I can't remember who was on keyboards. We didn't really have a permanent keyboard
I don't think you had one, did you, when you went out?
We'd used Nicky Graham, who worked for the management company and was also a musician, a couple of other guys. And then we auditioned Mike in New York, and he just played changes. It was like, yeah, that's good.
And of course, David's already writing and you're already starting recording Aladdin Sane while you're on the tour, aren't you? You're going into American studios to do that.
Yeah, we did some in RCA, and then there's 2 or 3 studios we used, different ones on the tour. And he was kind of writing either on the bus or in the hotel room and whatever.
And because it wasn't Aladdin Sane, not Aladdin Sane, Genie, isn't that? That's the first time you ever heard the song. That's the first take, first time you played it.
Yeah. I mean,
fantastic mistake from Trevor when David corrects him. I love
it. Yeah.
Trev said, "Oh, we're going to have to do a second tape because I messed up."
Get back on it.
Bowie said, "Good, let me hear it." And he went, "I like it."
Is that what Get Back on It is?
Yes,
talking to
Trevor, because Trevor stayed up.
Yeah. Trev said, "What do I do? Do I do that live? I'll look like an idiot." I said, "Yeah, you've got to do it. It's got to be like the record, Trev."
And is his image developing into Aladdin Sane at that point? Because the show is so theatrical. I mean, I got to see the show when it comes back to London at the end after Aladdin Sane had come out. And is all that theatre developing while you're on the road?
Yeah, I mean, we'd kind of got the music side of it together. We knew how to put it across musically. We had the outfits on, so that gave it a little bit of, it's that thing you go and see The Who when you're 16 and they walk on in these clothes with these antics, and you like, where the heck did they get the clothes from? Where did that come? How did they? What? Haircuts are different, everything. So we had that together. It did have that, and then I think because we'd go in for like a 2-week rehearsal before a tour, and we'd do the lights. He'd say, "Oh, Superman, what lighting?" And you'd go, blah, 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 and then blah. And, yeah, okay, let's try that. Yeah, that's good. And I was at the back, and he'd say, "What does it look like from the back?" And I'd say, "Well, it looks a bit boring. None of you have moved during this song. You're all still in the same place." And then he'd say, "Oh, well, I'll do this. Mick, you do that, and I'll come across and blah." And I said, like, Queen Bitch, it'd be good if you go back to back, and then when it comes in, kick off from each other. Things, so we were all throwing in little bits. When Mick did the famous bit on Mick's guitar, which I think was in Oxford, we'd been sitting in the dressing room, and Mick said, "I want to do something that stands out with the guitar." Chuck Berry did the Duck Walk, Townsend, the Windmill, Hendrix, Set Fire to His, and just went through all the guitar things that have been done. There's nothing left. And Bowie was like, just sat listening, we got to find something, And he went, "I've got an idea." And Mick says, "What?" And he went, "I'm not telling you." He said, "Just don't look shocked when I do it tonight." So we were like, "Oh, whoa, what's he going to do, And
he gets down on his knees and plays with his teeth. Yeah. And Mick Rock took the famous photograph, didn't he?
Yeah, just happened to catch it.
My God.
And that just went global overnight.
Because I just remember, because when the first tour went out, I think you played the Rainbow, and you were playing on scaffolding, weren't you? Wasn't that with Roxy Music supporting you?
Yes, it was. It was, yeah. That was just a one-off show.
That's a full night out, isn't it? God.
Oh, yeah. I think they played the Croydon Greyhound with us as well. So we'd done another gig with them.
It began a lifetime of Brian feeling competitive, I guess, with David. Because it was. We all, that was definitely, you were a ferry if you were into Bowie, and
yeah, they were a great band, weren't they?
So let's talk about you bringing this show back in the end when Aladdin Sane has come out, and the tour is still going and going, isn't it? And it arrives back, and you're at Hammersmith, where Guy and I were the other night, actually.
Indeed.
We went to see Johnny Marr play there. And I mean, this is the sad part of the story, really, isn't it, Woody? Because it's one of the greatest gigs of all time. I saw it. The Pennybaker movie's out there. We can all see how amazing it is. And then David goes and drops this mad bombshell at the end of the show, which you didn't know about.
You knew nothing about, right?
No. I mean, we'd had a few, what can I say? We had a few hiccups on the last American tour. And or at least I thought that we'd smoothed them out. It was really with management.
Financial with management.
Yeah, it was really financial because we took on extra musicians, and really you couldn't hear them. It was pointless, but it looked different. So it was a change for me that didn't really work. There was no point to it, but they were getting more money than we were.
Oh.
Which kind of stuck in the...
But what extra musicians playing what?
There was another guitar player.
There was another guitar player, 2 guitar.
Not like a horn section or...
No, who was the acoustic guitar player?
Who was the guitarist? So it was a horn section, right?
It was a whole...
Yeah.
What was his name?
Mark Pritchard, I think, was one of the guitarists. The fact that they were getting more than we did, didn't sit right.
No, God no.
So we kind of brought it up, and that led to some heated debate. Let's have a heated debate. I was a bit mouthy, really. Rightly so, but
that's it. But that's just short-term stuff, isn't it? I mean, that's to do with a tour. That's not.
Yeah,
I would have thought.
When you
the manager said, I would rather pay the road crew than you guys. I'd rather pay them more, and that just did it for me. I was like, okay, I'm not supporting this. So I said, okay, I'm off the tour. I'm going back to England tonight.
Right.
This is the middle of it. I'm going now. A couple of hours later, Mick came and said, you got what you wanted financially. He's just given us all that rise. I was like, okay, good. So it kind of smoothed out, but I don't think the management particularly liked the way I did it. But I didn't have a choice, really. I mean, I could talk for about an hour about that management, but I won't.
Right. So for those who don't know, David gets to the end of the show and he says, this isn't just the last show of the tour. This is the last show we'll ever do, and that was the first you knew about it. Did you believe it?
50%, because of the stunts that had been pulled as part of the show. He would collapse, and you didn't know whether he'd collapse like a James Brown thing, and then come back on and sing it, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. And he would say a lot of things purely for theatrical effect, shall we say. And he would say to us, we're going to do blah-de-blah. We're going to do that on Friday. And we'd be going, oh, my God, no, we can't do that. That's embarrassing. That's too much. You know what I mean? And then we realised that if we went, oh, yeah, what a fantastic idea. Let's do. We started getting creative on it. We never heard of it again. Mm-hmm. So we started to do that. Mm-hmm. If we didn't want to do something, we'd go, oh, yeah, fantastic, Because if we went, no, we're not doing that, he would push it. And some of the things were a bit too far out for me. Yeah. You've got the effect of stardom on somebody. It definitely has an effect. You've got all that going on. I watched him get up in the morning, have to try writing or something like that, or wanting to get some time in writing for the album. Then he's got like 12 interviews to do. And some of them didn't want David. They wanted to, what does Ziggy think to that? They wanted to talk to Ziggy. And in the end, Bowie walked into an interview. After 12 interviews, Ziggy Stardust walked out, and he was still Ziggy Stardust in the escalator, And it was permanently on. Whereas in the early days, you do a gig, we did the Ziggy and Spiders thing, and then the minute you left the stage, you kind of grabbed each other, jumped in the limo to the hotel and went clubbing or something. You went out as a bunch of mates, basically doing the clubs, or went for a meal and had a good laugh, And then you'd say, oh, bloody blah, David, and he'd just look at you like you'd think he'd just landed on the planet.
Because it's funny, because David Bowie,
he couldn't talk to you.
The David Bowie that Guy and I got to meet years later was the most down-to-earth, comical, humorous guy.
Yeah, he was.
But at that point, I wouldn't have wanted him to be. I wanted him to be special and an alien and all those things.
Yeah, well, we got that. But we got the Yorkshire thing as well, because when he talked with us, sometimes he would be total Yorkshire accent. He was talking to an Aussie, a big, really burly kind of guy, a bit hard, and Bowie was asking him things, and Bowie just went into an Australian accent with him. Mm-hmm. And I thought, he's going to get a fist in the face the way he's doing it. But I saw him do it with other people, just take their accent on completely and talk to him like that. And nobody ever batted an eyelid. To just let him do it,
Did you see him again after that, Woody?
Yeah, I saw him. I was, I think it was the Low album. I was doing a session in Paris, and I think I knew Tony was doing the album, and I phoned Tony up because I hadn't spoken to him since way before. And he said, can I ring you back? And he rang back and he said, David said, we're in the studio recording. It'd be great if you'd come down and hang out, and see what we're doing, and, we can have a meal and do all that. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll come down. It was only about 15 miles away. So I went down, and I think Iggy was there, they were doing the Low album. We had a meal, and then he said, let's me and you go into one of the other studios. So we went, and we basically had about an hour's chatting, and just chatted through the whole Ziggy thing, you know. And he said, I never really said it, but I wouldn't have made it without you guys. You guys were the blueprint and the thing that brought it all together. I knew you knew and felt rock and roll, and I kind of got off on that, and so then I knew what to write, and I just want to say that thanks for that. You know, he said there was a lot of other things going on at the time when decisions were made and how it was made and all that, and that wasn't right. You know, for me it was like a bit of a closure thing. Yeah, that was as much as he was going to go into it. He said, if you ever want anything, if you need to get hold of me, it might take you a week to get past all the lines and secretaries and BS. But, you know, if it's something you really want, persevere and I'll get back to you, you know. Yeah. That was nice. It was a nice end.
You heard his voice, didn't you, just a few days before he died?
Yeah. Yeah, we were
his birthday.
Holy doing New York. I forgot what the gig was called. The Warehouse or something like that. And we got there for sound check, and the security guards were like, "Oh, Bowie's coming down to sing with you," you know. And I said, "It's the first thing we've heard, you know. Nobody's mentioned it." "Oh yeah, he's definitely coming." Like that. So we didn't know it like him. He could just turn up. And then in the middle of the gig, Tony turned to me and said, "So he hasn't turned up?" I said, "No." And he went, "Shall I give him a ring?" I went, "Yeah, go on, ring him now."
In front of the audience?
Yeah. So he rang him up and he answered. And he said, "Oh, we're just playing down the road from you, you know." And it was his birthday. So we played a kind of karaoke, rubbishy version of Happy Birthday, and the audience all sang Happy Birthday. And we just held the phone up, and he was, "Oh, that was really nice. Say thank you. Ask him what they think to Black Star." And the audience went, "Yeah, mental," you know. And he said, "Hey, thanks for ringing." He said, "Have a good tour. I'll catch you down the road." And that was it. Then we were in Toronto the next night, and about 5:30 in the morning, my phone's doing all sorts. And I finally pick it up, and it's my son, and he said, "I've just heard it on the BBC. Bowie's just died." I was like, "Nah, where? We were talking to him yesterday. Must be a prank or something." He said, "No, it's dead. It was on the BBC News." I was like, "Oh my God." So we all got up, like 6 o'clock. We're all sat having coffee, like, what are we going to do? We've got 20 more gigs to do. Do we pull them out of respect or what? And I said, "No." Well, Tony said, "No, he was a trooper. He wouldn't expect you to." And I said, "Well, on the Ziggy tours, he genuinely would get like what you'd call pneumonia. And we'd say, 'We've got to pull it. You can't even talk, let alone sing.' And he'd go, 'The show must go on no matter what.' And he'd go on, and for the set, you couldn't tell he was ill. And then he'd go off and collapse. And the doctors would come and do all the business with him. So he said, 'You've been booked, you turn up.' So we said, 'We do that,' because that's what he would have done. So we just carried on. It was very different. It was very hard to play some of the songs. Especially the Black Star ones. We did a couple of Black Star ones, and it was just so emotional. I was actually crying, just trying to play, and very hard. And you just saw 20 rows of handkerchiefs and tissues and people crying and hugging each other. But then we did meet and greets over there. Just about everyone said thanks for doing it. That really. It gave us closure. It was the perfect way to get through the grief, you know. So it was good.
Yeah. I mean, it affected us, didn't it, Guy? I mean, we didn't
massive.
really know him that well.
I went and did that thing at the Union Chapel, which was really quickly put together. Just loads of people who had to. Because Woody, to my great pride, David's second last ever live performance, his last ever public performance, and his last performance in Britain, I was playing with him. Yeah, when he got up.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, when he got up with David Gilmour at the Albert Hall, and he did Arnold Lane, like he'd been singing that song every night of his life. Wow. He knew it so well. It was
Arnold Corns came from that.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, Woody, this has been amazing having you on.
It really has.
I hope
My pleasure. I've enjoyed it.
I hope Holy Holy get back on the road. I really do, because I mean, just literally, so the guy and I can jump up and do a song.
Yeah,
with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we are talking. We are talking about it. We haven't quite got there, but we are. At least we're discussing it. You know.
And you've got a book out as well, haven't you?
Yeah, about 4. I mean, yeah, I did it because I heard David's never going to do his biography, and I thought, well, somebody needs to give the viewpoint of what it was actually like on the road and what we got up to and what he was like and the whole thing. So I thought, I've got to do it. Took me ages to do, but it was good. I enjoyed doing it.
Well, I hope to see you again.
Yeah,
soon.
And thank you.
No, my
thank
pleasure,
you for
as I said.
I mean for all of it. You know, it's just so
100%.
what you guys did. You three guys
for the nettles and everything. Yeah.
For the everything, and thank for your wisdom. I want you to be my life coach, frankly.
Woody, thank you. Really, a brilliant Rockonteurs.
Yeah,
and I mean that was one of my favourites.
Thank you, Gary.
Yeah.
Thanks, Guy.
That was amazing, wasn't it?
What a storyteller! He really had me so much. I was like, I was kneeling at his feet listening to that. Cross-legged.
No, it was exactly that. We were the grandkids in front of the guy watching the telly.
Yeah. I mean,
I love that.
How he found music with the football landing in the nettles.
It's brilliant.
And what a journey! It just kind of resolved itself, and he's so proud of it, though, isn't he? Even though it was a hard ending.
Yeah.
He knows what a difference it made to so many people's lives, including his own.
Also, that it kind of had to end. It's like, because if it was just this guy and this band and they went on and on and on and on, then if Bowie's story hadn't been what it was, then that wouldn't have been the important thing that it was, I would say.
I think next week we might be face to face doing our next Rockonteurs.
I think we are.
I've got a feeling we're going to be back around a microphone in the studio with another guest. And God, he or she have got a lot to live up to after this one. Wow.
I'll tell you.
See you soon.
I'll see you very soon. And yes, I know you've got to get off, haven't you?
It's good night from me.
And it's good night from them.
Rockonteurs is produced by Gimme Sugar Productions for Warner Music Group UK.